And what's good, everyone? Welcome into Behind Your Basketball. Today I'm going to do my NCAA Tournament predictions for the 2023 March Madness brackets. But before I start to reveal my March Madness bracket selections, you guys are welcome to join in on the Behind Your Basketball Bracket Challenge group for the ESPN Tournament Challenge. That link is posted in the description below this video, so feel free to join in on the ESPN Tournament Challenge group for Behind the Arc Basketball. Last year we had above 60 plus brackets that were entered into the Behind the Arc Basketball Bracket Challenge group. Also, I'll be covering play-by-play and live reactions for some of the NCAA Tournament March Madness games, so feel free to join in on the live streams there. They're absolute fire. If you haven't caught one of my play-by-play live streams before, I would highly recommend it. And now, without any further ado, let's get going here with a 2023 bracket for my bracket predictions. Alright, we get the overall number 1 seed, the Alabama Crimson Tide, taking on the play-in game winner between Texas A&M Corpus Christi or Southeast Missouri State. I think Alabama's going to face Texas A&M Corpus Christi in this matchup. Alabama, they're just so fast, so athletic, an absolute machine for the SEC champions, super duper deep. Too much talent, too much size for the Roll Tide. I'm going Alabama in the 1 versus 16. 8 versus 9 matchup. This is the game to kick off Thursday afternoon. Physical battle right here. West Virginia, Maryland. First game of the bracket on a Thursday. West Virginia 4-2 in their last 6 games. Both of those losses coming against Kansas. Maryland limping down the stretch, just 1-3 in the last 4 games. Both of these teams struggled on the road this season. Maryland just 2 wins on the road this season. West Virginia with 3. This game is a toss-up. West Virginia does have the worst record, but they played tougher, high-quality competition. This comes down to the coaches, I feel like, in a toss-up matchup. Kevin Willard, 1-4 in first-round games since 2015. Bob Huggins, 4-1 in first-round games since 2016. I'm going Huggins here. Like the track record in this matchup, I'm going Mountaineers of West Virginia in the first round. San Diego State, the 5 seed, taking on the 12 seed Charleston. Charleston, incredible season for them. 31-3 records. San Diego State hasn't won an NCAA tournament game since 2015. 3 straight first-round losses for the Aztecs. And Charleston back into the bracket for the first time since 2018. SDSU, though, top 30 defense and fewest points allowed this season. They're 9th in perimeter defense. Charleston averages around 33 point shot attempts per game. That is number 2 in the nation in 3-point shot attempts. The problem is Charleston is not that efficient from 3. They only shoot the ball a tad above 33% from the perimeter, ranking around the 220 in the nation. Live and die by the 3 in this matchup for Charleston. San Diego State, they swept top 5 perimeter shooting team in the nation, Utah State 3 times. Also, Charleston has played a light schedule as well for them. They got crushed against North Carolina back in the non-conference league, gave up above 100 points. This Charleston team, they remind me of Winthrop from 2 years ago. Great record, light schedule. I'm taking the Aztecs here to finally get revenge and be able to reverse the curse and pick up a first-round win in round 1. Virginia, the 4 seed, taking on Furman, the 13, the SoCon Conference champions. First time since 1980 in the bracket for Furman. This could be the first big upset of the bracket right here. 12:40 p.m. game on a Thursday. Virginia, they have struggled in the first round before, 2 years ago against Jason Preston in Ohio. And also, of course, the one to remember, UMBC, the 1 versus 16 in 2018. This Virginia team, they're not overly athletic. They're one of the most slowest tempo offenses in all college basketball. Furman, most efficient team from 2-point range this season. They shoot the ball above 60% from 2. And this Furman team is going to attack, get to the rim. They're going to be the aggressor in this matchup. Also, Furman takes a bunch of threes. Guess what? If they're making those threes, game on for Furman right there. And if Virginia shots, if they're struggling to drop, it's going to be a tough one for Virginia. They do have a tough loss where they scored just 48 points this season against Boston College. They've been playing better lately. I do expect Jaden Gardner to have a big game for Virginia. Furman's defense has struggled inside the interior, but if Furman's shots start to drop, Virginia's in trouble. Get ahead, stay ahead for Furman. And I'm going Furman in the upset here in the 13-4 in the first round. Creighton, the 6 seed, taking on NC State, the 11 seed. Great matchup in this bracket. NC State, one of those teams in the bubble, making it into the bracket. They got an explosive backcourt. Taquavion Smith, Jarkel Joyner, those guards have speed on the floor against Creighton's solid starting 5 unit, all averaging double figures for the Blue Jays. NC State, a ton of speed. They did struggle with Clemson, though, who is front court centric. They lost to them 3 times against a much bigger team. And that's what Creighton is here with Ryan Kalkbrenner, 7-footer. Creighton with him on the floor, 21-9 record with Kalkbrenner starting this season. NC State, they struggle lately with perimeter defense as well. Creighton's got perimeter shooting. They've also got size, and they also have better defense. I could picture an upset in this matchup, especially if NC State's guards get going and start to be able to use their speed against you there in this matchup here, which Creighton sometimes has been able to struggle with speed. So NC State could pull off the matchup, and I could see it happening. But for me, I'm going to go Creighton in this matchup right here in the 6/11 over NC State. Baylor, the 3 seed, taking on UC Santa Barbara, the number 14 seed. Now, UCSB did not schedule a single Power 5 school on their schedule. Their head coach, Tom Pasternak, posting 5 20-plus win seasons over his 6 years total for UC Santa Barbara, doing an amazing job over there. They were like a dark horse team a couple years ago, but fell short by 1 against Creighton from 2 years back. This UC Santa Barbara team, they rank in about the 350s in three-point shooting makes. You need to make your threes in order to match Baylor. Baylor, one of the best backcourts in America. They just got a lethal backcourt trio for that team. 11 quad 1 victories for Baylor. I'm going Baylor in that first round matchup over UCSB. Missouri, the 7 seed, taking on Utah State, the 10 seed. High-flying, offensive type of game here. This game is going to be electric. Dennis Gates, incredible job. He's done first year at Mizzou as head coach. History not on Utah State's side entering this matchup. 8 straight first-round losses for the Aggies. They haven't won a first-round game since 2001. Utah State, though, coming into this bracket, they are red hot right now. They won the last 7 out of 8 games for Utah State, but this is against a scrappy defensive type of team for Missouri. They force a ton of turnovers. Mizzou ranks 3rd in steals per game this season. They average above 10 steals per game. And this Missouri team kind of reminds me of Miami from 1 year ago. I'm going to go Mizzou in this matchup and take the 7 over the 10. Arizona, the 2 seed, taking on Princeton in this region. Arizona, just so much size, just so big. Tubelis, Ballo, 6'11", 7-footer. And this Arizona team, they're just, man, they are powerful. They do have a couple blips on their schedule against other teams that do have like 7-foot bigs. Washington State, Utah, Oregon, Stanford. But Princeton, no Power 5 opponents scheduled. Their whole schedule was against the northeast part of the U.S., and this is just another weight class here with Arizona taking it to another level. This one's Arizona in this matchup over Princeton. So now we go over to the right region, Midwest region. At the top right, we'll go for Houston against Northern Kentucky. The 1 versus the 16 in this matchup. Houston, in their road to Houston, if they do make it all the way. Super physical team here. And it's going to be tough to compete on the glass against this Houston team. They just wear you out. This is Houston who's going to win this matchup. I don't know about Marcus Sasser, what his availability is for the first game of the bracket, but either way, Houston just wears you down on the glass. And also, Northern Kentucky is one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the nation. Iowa, Auburn, the 8 versus 9, a toss-up here. Difference in styles. Iowa, they can shoot the ball lights out. Auburn, physical, relies on defense. But Auburn struggling. 3-7 in their last 10 games for the Tigers. And their defense has gotten worse as well. They've allowed opponents to average around 79 points per game during the last 5 games for Auburn. Iowa, they've had some monster scoring games lately. They made 17 threes against Michigan State, 13 threes against Indiana, and too many turnovers, inability to make threes. I feel like that's going to doom Auburn in this matchup. Iowa's defense is just, man, it's tough to watch this season for the Hawkeyes, but I'm still going to go Iowa in this matchup. I think they're going to have enough firepower to outlast Auburn. Miami, the 5 seed, taking on Drake, the 12 seed. Oh boy, what a matchup we got right here. 2 of the most experienced teams in the field. The Canes, electric backcourt. This team is super fun to watch for Miami. Unfortunately, though, one of their key players is injured day to day. Norchad Omir, the number 2 scorer, top rebounder for the team, averaging almost a double-double. And that is a huge, huge loss there for the Cane. They're undersized, but they have great athletic guards that can attack and get to the rim. And they're also ball hawking and can force turnovers. Here's the problem, though. This Drake team, they're incredibly experienced. They barely turn over the basketball, and they're older than 5 starting fives in the NBA, this starting lineup. They start 2 25-year-olds, a 24-year-old, a 23-year-old, and the coach's son is 20 years old. That's their starting 5 for this Drake team. They're 13-1 in the last 4 games. If you want a Cinderella team, turn to the Missouri Valley Conference once again. 12-seeded Drake, I'm picking in this matchup over Miami in the first round. Indiana, the 4 seed, taking on Kent State, the 13 seed. This Kent State team, they are no joke. They are out for blood in this bracket. They are 10-1, last 11 games, lost by 5 at Houston, lost by 7 at Gonzaga. Those are road games at Houston, at Gonzaga. They're incredibly dangerous. They get a ball-hawking defense. They're 10-0 with their current starting 5 for Kent State. Nobody wants to see Sincere Carey and Malik Jacobs in the bracket. That scrappy Kent State defense, nobody wants to see them. They rank top 50 in all college basketball in 2-point defense. Indiana, 2 elite players in the team. Trace Jackson Davis, Jalen Hood-Schifino. Those guys are absolute studs. They're 2-point oriented, though. They barely attempt threes for Indiana. If Kent State is able to stop those guys inside, Kent State could have the edge in this game and take over. I feel like Indiana's been overvalued by the media all throughout the course of the season. That's my opinion about Indiana. Whenever they win big, the media goes out, tweets that this team could be Final Four good, but sometimes they have blips here and there. They lose games by big margins as well for Indiana. And I feel like this game's just going to get straight to their head right there. Kent State, 2 close losses against Houston and Gonzaga. Take 3, a charm for Kent State. I'm taking the 13, a big shocker over the 4 Indiana in the first round. Kent State to the second round. Iowa State, the 6th seed. They'll play a play-in game winner versus the 11 Mississippi State or Pitt in that matchup here. So here's the thing. If Pitt gets through, they'll play a team kind of similar styles. Mississippi State, this offense is a nails on chalkboard. They are rough scoring-wise. That team is just all defense. All defense, no offense. Pitt, they need to regroup. They have an opportunity to do so. And Iowa State's offense as well, they have struggled. That Iowa State team, they are physical. Pitt would have to go through 2 super physical teams, kind of like the similar identities because they're defense heavy and struggle with offense to get past Iowa State. And I feel like that game, the playing game that Pitt has, if they're able to get past Mississippi State, I think they get a good chance to get past Iowa State. I know Pitt limped a little bit into the brackets, but if they can get it back, watch out for their backcourt because this team has been undervalued this season. For the Pitt Panthers, they are underrated entering the bracket. They have a solid backcourt, and I feel like they're going to be able to outscore Mississippi State and then outscore Iowa State. They can play make. Watch out for their guards in this bracket. If there's a team that's undervalued, look at the 11 seed here. It's the Pitt Panthers. I got Pitt moving on past Iowa State into the second round. Xavier, the 3 seed, taking on Kennesaw State, the 14. What a turnaround for this Kennesaw State team. They were 1-28 back in the 2019-2020 season. The question, though, is whether you can limit Xavier in assists in this matchup. Xavier is the best passing team in the nation for Xavier. They're number 3 in the nation in 3-point shooting percentage. Kennesaw State's perimeter defense, they have been playing better. The Owls, though, allowing opponents to shoot the ball 36% from 3. Yikes. That is going to be a tough one in this matchup against Xavier. Even without Zach Fremantle, Xavier, I feel like just too explosive offensively. This game could be sneaky close, though. I feel like sneaky close. I'm still going to go Xavier in this matchup with a 3 over the 14. Texas A&M versus Penn State. First of all, Texas A&M, no way they should have got a 7 seed in this bracket. Well underseeded for them. This is a 9:55 p.m. tip-off time for Penn State. Take note about that. If you haven't entered in your bracket yet with your selections. 9:55 p.m. tip-off time for the Nittany Lions. Live by the 3, die by the 3. That's the motto for this Penn State team. Texas A&M, they're red hot, 19-4 in their last 23 games. Penn State also hot as well, 8-2 in their last 10. Texas A&M, though, with their physicality, that team is an animal. They can get to the free throw line more than any other team in the nation. It's just unfortunate they got a bad draw here in this bracket, I feel like, for Texas A&M being a 7 instead of being either a 6 or a 5 for them. Both of these teams, they've played close games lately, but I feel like the physicality of Texas A&M to get to the free throw line and put Penn State into foul trouble, that's going to be the difference maker in the game. I'm going Texas A&M in that first round matchup over Penn State. And then here's the 2 seed Texas taking on the 15 seed Colgate. Mark my words about this one. Colgate, they're going to win an NCAA tournament game someday. But not today. Not this time around. This Texas team's just too good. This Colgate team is no joke. They can go out, they can play a solid 30 minutes with you. They played Tennessee close back in 2019. Played a solid first half against Arkansas in a track meet from 2021. Last year, they played a solid 35 minutes against Wisconsin, but this team that they're playing, Texas, super athletic, super deep. Texas, in the last month, ranked number 1 in defensive efficiency. And this Colgate team, they're legit. They can shoot the ball. First in three-point shooting, but it's just physicality. Physicality is just going to overwhelm this Colgate team. I feel like Big 12 basketball is just another weight class compared to the Patriot League. This is where I'm going, Longhorns. And that 2 versus 15 matchup, Colgate, they should have been a 14 for them. They could have had a chance to pull off an upset if a 14. They were underseeded as well. Great season for Colgate. Program best 26 victories, but just tough draw against the Big 12 tournament champions. All right, so now we're going to move down to the West region here, bottom right part of the bracket, as we'll go over the round of 64 games out of the West region, as we have Kansas taking on Howard in this region, the 1 versus 16, the bottom right part of the bracket. Kansas Jayhawks, defending national champions. Howard playing just one Power 5 team. That was Kentucky. They lost 95-63. This one is Kansas, who's going to win this game. Arkansas, Illinois, 8 versus 9. This is a physical battle in this matchup, an absolute bloodbath. Illinois, 3-5 in their last 8 games. Arkansas, 3-6 in their last 9. I just got faith here in Eric Musselman. Got the faith that his team's got the talent, can turn things around. This is like a pick-em matchup right now. I think the difference maker in this game is going to be Nick Smith Jr., though. Watch out for him to be a difference maker. Illinois been erratic as of late for them. Arkansas, I'm going to Hogs in that first-round matchup over Illinois. St. Mary's, the 5 seed, will take on VCU, the 12. St. Mary's slow-tempo offense relies on their defense. They just seemed rattled in that WCC tournament. Both against BYU and also Gonzaga, when they got sped up offensively, they were just all out of sync and stuff and turned over the basketball a ton of times. So VCU, what they're going to do, they're going to speed up St. Mary's. And VCU's got an absolute ball-hawking backcourt that they have. Ace Baldwin, he is an absolute dog. I know the A-10 had a down season, but this VCU team, they're riding in with a chip on their shoulder right now. Unfortunately, last tournament they weren't able to play due to COVID. For VCU, their game got canceled against Oregon. Oregon received the pass into the second round to take on Iowa. This VCU team's riding a 9-game winning streak. Everybody talks about the down year in the A-10, but this team can force steals. They're scrappy. They're top 15 in the nation in steals per game. They're going to speed up St. Mary's, and I like VCU coming out with a W in that 12-5 matchup. UConn, Iona. Oh, man, what a coaching battle right here. Rick Pitino, Dan Hurley, the 4 versus 13. Sneaky matchup right here. Iona playing close games down the stretch this season, riding a 14-game winning streak. St. Peter's, though, they were the Cinderella team out of this conference last year. UConn, very, very deep team with a ton of size. They're great at both ends of the floor. I feel like Iona's going to hang in the game like they did 2 years ago against Alabama, but UConn, though, they're going to dominate the offensive glass. Iona struggles to defensive rebound. UConn's schedule, though, much more tougher than the Iona Gales. I just cannot picture Dan Hurley in the first round losing 3 times in a row. UConn, third time's the charm. I get them moving on to the second round. TCU, the 6, taking on a playing game winner between Arizona State and Nevada, the 11. Now, I have no clue. How in the world did Nevada even make it in? 10 losses from the Mountain West. Never heard of an at-large from the Mountain West with double-digit losses making it in. Thought it would have been Rutgers, honestly. But here we are. TCU, experienced, physical type of team. They'll face against one of these teams, which I think will be Arizona State. Arizona State lost at San Francisco by 37 this season. They're an undersized team. TCU, great on the fast break, best team in the nation in fast break points. So that's what Arizona State, or the playing game winner, will have to do, is just be able to limit TCU's points here. But I feel like the experience, stronger schedule by TCU, that will propel them in this matchup for the 6th seed to move on to the second round. Gonzaga, the 3 seed, will take on the 14 seed Grand Canyon University. Now, honestly, I don't know how GCU wasn't a 15 seed. They were a number 5 seed in their conference tournament. But Grand Canyon, they're undersized. This one should be a breeze. Drew Timme and company for Gonzaga. They should win big in this matchup over Grand Canyon. I get the Zags moving on to the second round. Northwestern Boise State, honestly, this one was the hardest one in the first round for me to predict. This is kind of like Clemson Rutgers from 2 years ago. This game is out in Sacramento, so keep that in mind. Game out in Sacramento, California. Both of these teams going backwards late in the season. Northwestern 1-4 in their last 5 games. Boise State 2-3 in their last 5. Defensive battle here. First team to 60 wins. Boise State has the better offense. I went back and forth in this pick. Boise State's got better balance. They can make more perimeter shots. Northwestern, they cannot buy a bucket for this team. They got a great defense, but they cannot buy a bucket. I feel like this team peaked too soon. I'm going to take Boise State. Just got more scoring on that team into the second round for the Broncos. And Boise State will face the winner of UCLA and UNC Asheville. Now, same thing. 10:05 p.m. tip-off time out in Sacramento. That does UNC Asheville no favors whatsoever. And the games usually go later. Like, if it goes into overtime, the games get pushed even more for the games throughout the day. That's the last game of the day. So earliest tip-off time is 10:05 p.m. So no justice there for UNC Asheville. They get a sneaky record, though, for a 27-7. Misleading record for a 15 seed. Drew Pember, 6'10 forward. That is a name to know in this bracket. He's nearly averaging a double-double going up against an UCLA team that we're not sure if they'll have Adam Boner. They're big in this matchup for Bona. The problem for UNC Asheville, though, is turnovers. They average around 14 turnovers per game. UCLA, they're just too good with the ball handling. Tiger Campbell's still there. Hami Hawkish. Just tremendous leadership by those two and the whole team. And UNC Asheville has yet to play a Power 5, or they played one Power 5 game, and it was a 34-point loss against Arkansas. So I'm going UCLA in this matchup. Now we take a look at the bottom left part of the bracket here. So this is the East region that we have. We have number 1 seed Purdue taking on the 16 seed Texas Southern and Fairleigh Dickinson. 14-20 Texas Southern against Fairleigh Dickinson in the playing game, who had lost to Merrimack, by the way. I'm going to go Texas Southern in that playing game over Fairleigh Dickinson. Texas Southern to beat Arizona State this season, but there's just no match here to defend Zach Edey. Just too good. National Player of the Year. Too good. Zach Edey, Purdue, on to the next round. Memphis, Florida Atlantic. 8 versus 9. Poor Florida Atlantic getting this draw of a matchup. Incredible season for them, for FAU. But they're just stuck in that 8 versus 9 game. Winner moves on to take the 1 seed. And FAU is 31-3 on the season. This Memphis team, they are peaking right now. A 40-point win against Tulane on Saturday in American semis. 10-point win over Houston. I know Houston without Marcus Sasser, but still. That's against one of the most physical teams in the country, and Memphis themselves, they are super physical. This FAU team, they are deep. I'm torn about this one. FAU, incredible season for them, but I feel like the athleticism of Memphis in this matchup here, and experience as well. Memphis has 11 seniors on their team. 11. I'm just impressed by Memphis right now. This team, I feel like, has got more to come. And Kendrick Davis, one of the top scorers in the nation from Memphis. I'm going Memphis in this matchup to take on Purdue in the 1 versus 8. Duke, Oral Roberts. Oh, baby. One of the best matchups in the bracket here. Poor Oral Roberts, though. Oh, man, this is... If you want a Cinderella run, this is the toughest one to get through. Both of these teams super hot. Oral Roberts, 17 straight wins, enters the bracket with the most victories out of anybody. I've been talking about the Cinderella for Oral Roberts now for weeks, but they go up against an absolute mismatch, I feel like, in this matchup here. Duke, just so much length, so much size, physicality that they have, and Oral Roberts playing against Summit League teams is just... Another physicality level and multiple NBA-ready type bodies that they'll be going up against. But this Oral Roberts team, they are experienced. They want to pull off the upset. They have the experience with a past tournament run to the Sweet 16 2 years ago. They got 7'3" center Connor Vanover, transfer from Arkansas. Max A. Smith, one of the top scorers in the nation from 2 years ago. Oh yeah, he is back leading this team, but I feel like the size here for Duke, it's just going to stump Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts lost by 38. Against Houston. Duke just bigger, stronger, more physical in this matchup. I'm going to fade Oral Roberts like South Dakota State from the Summit from 1 year ago. I'm taking Duke in that first round matchup. Tennessee, Louisiana, the 4 versus 13. Tennessee slipping lately. They lost their key player, Zakai Ziegler. That's a tough loss for them. They're just 4-6 in the last 10 games. And Louisiana, they only played one Power 5 team. That was Texas. They got blown out and lost by 28. Now, I feel like this is going to be a close game. The Raging Cajuns, they're physical, and they'll give them all they got. They got Jordan Brown, who's averaging 19 points per game. But Tennessee's defense, though, this team just bullies you. They're fantastic. Louisiana played the number 7, the number 11, and number 8 teams to win their conference tournament out in the Sun Belt. They won the last 2 games by 6 points and 5 points. Tennessee, they do an amazing job taking care of mid-majors. I'm going to take Tennessee here in the first rounds, but of course, making it to the second weekends, that's a different discussion for Tennessee, as we'll go through later. Kentucky, Providence, 6 versus 11. Oh yeah. My PC Friars to take on Big Blue Nation. Game of the bracket right here. Bryce Hopkins transferred from Kentucky to Providence. Coach Cal wouldn't play him. And here he is taking on his former team. Kind of just like last year where you had the storylines. It was Foster Loyer, Davison, who transferred from Michigan State. They met up on a Friday night as well for that matchup on national TV. But PC, Ed Cooley, he's got to get these boys ready. They've been slipping lately. 7:10 p.m. on Friday for the tip-off time for this one. PC is going to need to beat them dudes for this matchup for Providence to get it done. This is going to be a physical battle. Oh, yeah. Bryce Hopkins going to have to get his magic back as well. Kentucky, I feel like they've got more size. They can get more buckets in the paint. They have struggled from 3, but Providence is, if they can hit or miss from 3, that's the thing. Usually in years past, Providence has been known for their defense. This year, it's vice versa. This year, they've got a strong offense, but they've lacked defensive consistency this season, especially on the interior. They're much smaller than usual teams. They do have a really, really good big guy down low with Ed Croswell. He brings the physicality. So if Providence, if they do bring the physicality, they have a chance in this matchup to rebounds. Man, such a tough pick right here, but I'm going to just go Kentucky in this matchup. I think they're going to redeem themselves from last year's one and done from the bracket here. So even though I'm a Providence fan, I'm going to go Big Blue in this matchup, seeing the trend of both of these teams lately. K-State and Montana State, the 3 versus 14 seed in the bracket. This is a really likable Kansas State team. Jerome Tang, he did an amazing job in his first season. He put a bottom projected team in the Big 12 to be a number 3 seed in the bracket towards the top tier of their conference. Just a remarkable comeback story. Keontae Johnson with his comeback story. Marquise Noel, one of the top playmakers in the country. And yeah, the Big Sky, they've just struggled historically in the bracket here. So I'm going K-State in this matchup. Michigan State, USC, the 7 versus 10. Michigan State with a trio of Tyson Walker, AJ Hogar, Joey Hauser. They've been inconsistent this season. They played a tough schedule, though, for Michigan State. They lost a lot of games by close margins. So if they're able to turn those close margins with losses into victories, they have a chance in this matchup here. USC, they got a big team for them. I feel like their size could give Sparty quite a bit of problems. But then USC, their interior D is solid, but their perimeter D has been leaky. And that's where if Michigan State, if they can make their shots, they can go off. They've had some games that they've gotten hot from the perimeter. Tyson Walker, he is really an underrated guard. And this game's going to be close. I'm going to just go Izzo here in this matchup. I believe in Izzo. I'm going to take Michigan State in the 7 versus 10 over USC. Marquette, Vermont, 2 versus 15 in this matchup. Tyler Kolek, one of the top playmakers in all college basketball this season. This Marquette team is one of the top passing teams in the nation. Their offense is absolutely electric. Vermont, they started off the season 2-7. It's been more of like a rebuilding type of year for them. They lost a ton of key players after last season's NCAA Tournament team as a 12 seed. And Vermont, they've won 15 straight games to get here, but against a really easy schedule from the America East Tournament, America East Conference. They played their conference tournament on their home floor as well. So I'm going to go Marquette in that matchup over Vermont. All right, so that's the first round. We're going to scroll back up to the top here and take a look at the second round of the bracket. Alabama, West Virginia, 1 versus 9. Alabama just so fast, so physical, so athletic. West Virginia, they struggle with defensive rebounding, interior defense. Alabama, I feel like they're just too tough to prepare for in just one day of rest. And I'm going to go Roll Tide in that matchup of Alabama onto the second rounds past West Virginia, or onto the Sweet 16 for Alabama. So moving on from the second round to the Sweet 16 for Alabama. All right, 5 versus 13. San Diego State taking on Furman in this matchup. So Furman, I got them pulling off the upset over Virginia. San Diego State to the second weekend. Historically, this one kind of back and forth on for this one, but this Furman team, they can flat out score. This is the thing. This San Diego State team is physical. They are physical. They got the best draw you can ever imagine for the Mountain West Conference champions in this bracket. They got an incredible draw to move on to the first 2 rounds or have a realistic shot for them. I just feel like this is going to be their redemption here for them, that they're able to limit Furman in this bracket or in this game. I'm going to go with a defense over the efficient offense. San Diego State moving on to the Sweet 16. Creighton, Baylor. Great matchup, 6 versus 3. This is going to be a shootout. I feel like Baylor's backcourt against Creighton starters. Baylor, they're the deeper team. They can knock down the threes, but defensive inconsistency, that has been a problem. This team lacks rim protection, interior defense for Baylor, and that can stump them. Creighton, they got the edge down low in this matchup. Ryan Kalkbrenner, 71% shooter from the floor this season. This Creighton team almost won against Kansas last year. This should be a great matchup. If Baylor makes their threes, then Creighton's in trouble. But if Creighton just torches this Baylor team and controls the glass inside and interior, then this Creighton's matchup. I'm going back and forth. I just haven't liked the look that Baylor has played lately. They've had some tough games, especially when it comes to playing a team like Iowa State. For some reason, Iowa State keeps on stumping Baylor, and I don't know, it just seems like something's off with Baylor this season. So I'm going to go with Creighton in this matchup to pull off the 6-3 upset. And then Missouri, the 7 seed, taking on the 2 seed in the second round, Arizona. By the way, this game is played out in Sacramento, so on the West Coast. But we have another shootout type of game right here. Electric, offensive type of game. First one to 100 for this matchup. Both of these teams can light it up. A speed type of game. Arizona, they got 5 players scoring in double figures. Mizzou has 3. Arizona, they have just so much size. This size is going to give Missouri issues in this matchup. Missouri, one of the smallest teams in the country. They cannot rebound. For this Missouri team. They do remind me, though, the scrappy Miami team from last year, though. If Missouri is able to force turnovers, they can win this game for Missouri because Alabama's turned it over quite a bit this season. And also their defense has struggled compared to last year for Arizona. But I feel like the size of Arizona is going to give Mizzou a ton of problems, in my opinion. I'm taking Arizona in that matchup. Now we move on to the top right of the bracket. Midwest region. The 1 seed, Houston. in the round of 32, taking on the 8 seed Iowa. Now, I don't know about Marcus Sasser, what his status is, but here's the coaches you got to pick from: Calvin Sampson or Fran McCaffrey. That's all you have to know right there. Fran McCaffrey has never made it to the second weekend in 6 tries at Iowa. Iowa's offense meeting Houston's defense as well. Houston's just gonna limit Iowa as much as possible. Houston's gonna get physical, wear them down on the glass. Their defense for Iowa's been rough this season, and Houston's a second chance points type of team. Iowa, their inability to defensive rebound, that will cost them. Houston will get multiple offensive rebounds. I'm going Houston and at 1 versus 8 over the Hawkeyes. Drake, Kent State, this is a 12 versus 13 in the second round. Oh boy. Upset City. Drake won in the first 4 2 years ago against Wichita State. Upset special from the first round for this matchup. This Drake team has a win already against Mississippi State. They held Mississippi State to 52 points. This Drake team is for real. One of the oldest teams in the field. They got 2 25-year-olds, a 24-year-old, a 23-year-old, and then the coach's son who's 20 years old inside the starting 5. This Kent State team also for real. 0-2, close losses against Houston and Gonzaga on the road. Toss-up type of game in this matchup here. I'm going to go with a ball-handling type of team, though, in this matchup. Drake, one of the best ball-handling teams in the country with fewest turnovers per game. Kent State, they're scrappy. They force turnovers, but it's going to be tough to force turnovers from this Drake team. They just control the ball. They have a great point guard with Roman Penn on the floor, and their experience just incredible for this Drake team. Average age, older than 5 NBA starting 5s for this Drake team. I'm going Drake to the Sweet 16 for your typical Missouri Valley Conference Cinderella. Here we go, the 11. Pitt, I've got as the 11, taking on the 3 Xavier. Sully Boom, top transfer in the nation for X. Great backcourt matchup right here. Both of these teams have incredible playmakers all over the floor. Man, what a matchup if it does happen in the bracket between Xavier and Pitt. Feel like Xavier, though, when it comes down to is offense explosion. And that's where Xavier can explode offensively. Pitt allowed a season-high 27 assists against Duke in the ACC tournament. If Iowa State or Mississippi State, if they make it here, then I'm taking Xavier either way. Both of those teams cannot score whatsoever. So this is Xavier moving on into the Sweet 16. And what a battle we have. 7 versus 2. Texas A&M and Texas. Oh, man. Poor Texas A&M in this matchup. They should be either a 6 or a 5, honestly. So underseeded. Lone Star Showdown. Just an all-out physical war in this matchup here. Texas A&M, they're going to cause havoc. They're going to force turnovers. They're going to try to see if they can control the glass and offensive rebound for a smaller type of team, too. And they'll look to see if they can put you into foul trouble and go to the free throw line. The problem is that they're not efficient, which is a problem already against a Texas team that ranks number 1 in adjusted defensive efficiency within the past month. And also, Texas getting better on the glass. And this Texas team, they're just so deep. So deep for Texas. So, Texas A&M, they love to put you in foul trouble. But this Texas team, they are deep, and they've gotten better on the glass. And they're also the more experienced team, multiple seniors on this roster for Texas. And all these players have bought in to the system. Ronnie Terry, as the interim head coach for now, they have all bought in. And these guys have matured so much for Texas. And Terry, he needs to be named the new head coach. And they're just going to keep on playing and playing and playing. And playing and playing for Texas. Searching for that deep run in the bracket under head coach Ronnie Terry. I'm going Texas here. Big 12 tournament champions to the Sweet 16. Now we move on to the bottom part of the brackets. West region. Defending champions Kansas taking on Arkansas. In the right side of the screen. Physical battle. Arkansas, tons of talent. This team on paper for Arkansas, they can be a deep team if they can put it all together for Arkansas. They get the talent to do so, but they've been inconsistent this season. Injuries, they've been battling a ton of injuries this season. Arkansas, they're gonna attack, get to the free throw line, get to the rim. Kansas, they've got great interior defense for Kansas. 17 quad 1 victories, experience on this Jayhawk squad. And I feel like it's going to come down to late game situations. They got leaders. all over this Kansas squad. DeJuan Harris, Jalen Wilson. This is a defensive grind for this matchup here. I feel like this one, Kansas squeaks out. It is close. Expect a bucket late by Kansas to win the game. I'm going Jayhawks in the matchup over Arkansas in a physical battle between a 1 versus 8. VCU, the 12 seed, taking on UConn, the 4 seed. Sneaky matchup once again for UConn. VCU, they're scrappy. They average around 9 steals per game. And you know that they're out here to make a run in this bracket because they did not play in the bracket 2 years ago because they had that game taken away from them due to positive tests on the team. UConn, they do turn over the ball quite often. They average around 13 turnovers per game now. Where I do like UConn here, though, is on the glass. They're super physical. They're a top 15 in rebounding. And VCU, they do struggle to rebound. Back half of the A-10 this season in rebounds per game. Now, the A-10, they did have a down season in Big East. They're just another weight class, another step up, I feel like, in this matchup. VCU can make it interesting, but I do like UConn in this matchup over VCU. TCU versus Gonzaga. The 6 versus the 3. I was going back and forth on this one. Is this the one that TCU gives Gonzaga a wake-up call with physicality? Or is it later in the bracket, or is it never? That's the thing. This is a fast matchup. TCU loves to play fast. They have the best fast break offense in all college hoops, but here's the problem. They don't have Eddie Lampkin. That man was a load last year against Arizona, forced overtime against Arizona in the second round. This TCU team, super physical. Gonzaga, they're just automatic with their shots for the Zags. They are peaking as well right now for Gonzaga. This team is an absolute machine for Gonzaga's offense. TCU, the problem is they can't make their shots. This team cannot buy a bucket. They're horrendous from 3 for TCU. And without Eddie Lampkin, this TCU team, they've just been inconsistent. Win one, lose one. They got the experience, but man, it just doesn't seem like they're going to come through. So I'm going to take Gonzaga in this matchup. Would not shock me, though, if TCU with their physicality in that game, but I feel like Gonzaga there is going to make more shots in the end. Boise State, the 10, taking on UCLA, the 2. Now, UCLA, they held Arizona 3 times this season, well below their season average. 58 points, 73 points, 59 points in those 3 meetings. This UCLA team, just tremendous leadership on the floor. Jaime Jaquez, Tiger Campbell, these guys, seasoned vets, went to the Final Four 2 years ago. These guys, they're just mentally tough from UCLA. I feel like they're going to find a way to beat Boise State in this matchup. Boise State just 2-3 in their last 5 games playing in the Mountain West Conference. UCLA in that game moving on to take on Gonzaga. That's a rematch in the Final Four 2 years ago. Rematch in the Sweet 16. Now we go to the left side of the bracket. Purdue, the 1 seed, going to take on Memphis, the 8. Zach Edey, National Player of the Year, versus physical Memphis. I feel like this is a bad draw for Purdue right now. Memphis, they lead the American in free throw attempts per game, 2-point attempts per game, and also fouls drawn to opponents. If you put the big boy in the foul trouble, then they are in trouble, meaning Purdue. And that's where I think Memphis's athleticism will take over this game. Purdue doesn't have much athleticism for their team. They got an inexperienced backcourt for Purdue, but I mean, Memphis here, just experienced guards. Kendrick Davis, he is a name to know. He averages above 22 points per game. He's a transfer from SMU. Zach Edey scoring above 22. Monster double-double season for the National Player of the Year. But this Tigers team, top 30 in the nation in steals per game for Memphis. All you have to do, pressure a young Purdue backcourt. Memphis, they are peaking right now. Watch out. 40-point win against Tulane, which they lost against twice earlier in American Conference play before crushing them on Saturday. A 10-point win against Houston. This Memphis team looks like now is the time. I'm going Memphis in that game over Purdue. Big upset to put out the first 1 seed out of the bracket. Number 8 seed Memphis moving on into the next round. Sweet 16. Duke, the 5 seed, going to take on the 4 seed Tennessee. And unfortunate here, this history just hasn't been on Tennessee's side And also, unfortunate injury with Zakai Ziegler as well. They're just cursed when making it to the second weekend. Duke, this team is peaking right now. They're just too explosive, too much size, I feel like, for this Duke team. The offense has been lights out as well for Duke lately. It's been a defense all throughout the season, but their offense, man, it is peaking right now for Duke as well. The sky's the limit for this Duke team, for this young squad. Just so much athleticism, wingspan size in this roster. Tennessee, their defense, defensive oriented for this Tennessee team. They have been a grind with their offense this season. I am taking Duke in that 5 versus 4 matchup. Kentucky, K-State. This matchup in the round of 32, Kentucky to 6, K-State to 3. Now, yeah, this should be a really good game. Big Blue. They've been getting hot lately, unless it's Vanderbilt they're playing. 5-2 in their last 7. Kansas State, I feel like for them, they've overachieved this season. They've been slipping a little bit down the stretch, in my opinion, for Kansas State. A really likable team for them. They got a legit duo. Marquise Noel, Keontae Johnson. Those guys can ball for K-State. But where I feel like Kentucky, they can do damage. That's their size in their backcourt for Kentucky. They get size in their backcourt. That can pose a problem to Kansas State in this matchup. Kansas State's got 2 high-usage players, the 2 that I named there with a duo, Johnson and Noel. Now, those minutes may have taken a toll on them by late stage of the season right now for Kansas State. Those guys have played above 35 minutes per game on average this season. Oscar Tshiebwe, Antonio Reeves, Cason Wallace, Jacob Toppin. Feel like those 4 guys going to outplay the duo of K-State in this matchup. I'm going to go Big Blue, the 6 over the 3 in this game. Kentucky moving on to the Sweet 16, looking for redemption. Michigan State, there's Izzo in the bracket still against Marquette the 2. This Marquette team, I feel like they are just different this season. Michigan State, they've been a roller coaster this year. Up and down, up and down. They've had a ton of close losses. But if they can get hot from 3, they can make a run for Michigan State. But that could be a bad recipe here for a lights-out type of team. Marquette's a type of team that they've been shooting lights out from the floor as well. They can space the floor for this Marquette team. And also, they can force turnovers in this matchup. Michigan State struggled with turnovers at times this season. I'm going to go Marquette in this matchup for the 2 over the 7. All right, so here we go. Back to the top Sweet 16 matchups that we have. So we go to the South region. Alabama, the 1 seed, will take on San Diego State, the 5 seed. Alabama, I feel like, so explosive. This is a mismatch for San Diego State. Just terrible matchup for the Aztecs. They cannot score. They're rough on offense. This should be a beatdown. Alabama big time in that game over SDSU. A defensive-minded team, but just a grind on offense. Creighton, Arizona, the 6 versus 2. Both of these teams played each other back in the Maui Invitational Championship game. That was on Black Friday, 81-79. Now, if Creighton meets Arizona again with at least 3 days of rest, watch out. I feel like Creighton can pull this off right here. This is going to be another one of those electric scoring games. Arizona, they've had some bad losses this season in conference play, like Washington State, Oregon, Stanford, against more of like the big-oriented type of teams, guys with 7-footers on the team. This Creighton team, they have an opportunity to go on a run, I feel like. They don't follow much. They went 15 for 19 at the free throw line in that game against Arizona. Arizona just went 4 for 7 at the free throw line, and I just feel like this could be a redemption game for Creighton. So I'm going to go Creighton over Arizona, getting redemption from the loss by 2 in the Maui Invitational. I'm taking Creighton to face Alabama in the Elite 8. Houston, the 1 seed, against Drake in the Sweet 16. Drake, the Cinderella team. Wouldn't shock me if Drake is here in the Sweet 16, honestly. But this Houston team, man, they're just another animal. We don't know about Marcus Sasser and if he's going to be playing or back by then for Houston. But this Houston team, they just wear you down on the glass. And Drake hasn't faced that competition in a long time because of the Missouri Valley Conference schedule here. But honestly, wouldn't shock me if they keep on making a run for the experience that Drake has. Drake, the better three-point shooting team. than making twos for Drake. But this Houston team, they're number 2 in the nation in three-point shooting defense, and that's where I'm going to go and tip my cap to the defense of Houston to limit Drake's threes in this matchup. I am taking Houston in that matchup over Drake in the 1 versus 12. Xavier, Texas, great matchup here between the 3 and the 2. Everybody just, I feel like, is just bought in on this Texas team right now with their experience. When Chris Beard wasn't able to come back to the team, Ronnie Terry is the new head coach, and all the players just bought in right now. What a remarkable coaching job Ronnie Terry has done. This team has got dogs all over the place defensively on the roster. Marcus Carr, Serge Jabari Rice, he is clutch late in games, by the way. Tyrese Hunter, a transfer from Iowa State who went to the Sweet 16 last year. Rice played in the round of 32 in New Mexico State. They got lockup guys all over the place. And since February 16th, this Texas team, that's 1 month ago, they have the best adjusted defensive efficiency via Batark.com. Xavier, they can score like no other. This Xavier team is lights out scoring the basketball. Top team in the nation in assists per game. But that injury loss to Zach Freemantle, I think that's going to be a tough one right there with the depth, in my opinion, and the balance going more towards Texas. I'm going to take the Longhorns. I'm going to go with their defense in that matchup to limit Xavier more and be able to score on that Xavier defense. I'm taking Texas in a Texas matchup, Texas versus Houston in the Elite Eight. Now we take a look at the Sweet 16, bottom part of the bracket. Kansas, the 1 seed, will take on UConn, the 4. Physical game right here, I feel like. National champions, Kansas Jayhawks, going up against UConn. UConn looks like they're peaking at the right time once again. They're 9-12 in the last 11 games. They've lost 3 games. Their last 3 games they lost by a combined 8 points for UConn. Kansas 9-2 in the last 11 games as well. Kansas been doing great this year, but they just need a reset. They've lost twice to Texas, winning a week span by double-digit points. UConn, though, they do struggle with turnovers. That does concern me. Kansas could win this game because they do force a ton of turnovers. Got a scrappy backcourt with Juwan Harris. They got leadership as well all over the floor for the Jayhawks. But the lack of offense, that concerns me for Kansas. Lack of offense outside of Jalen Wilson. That is a problem this season for the Jayhawks. And this game is a toss-up to me, honestly. Defending champions or UConn. I'm going to go with a deeper team here with UConn in this matchup here. UConn's going to see if they can look to put Kansas into foul trouble. And I'm going to go UConn to pull off the upset over the defending champions, the 4 seed UConn, going into the Elite Eight. Gonzaga, UCLA, rematch from 2 years ago in the Final Four. The Zags, the 3 seed, UCLA the 2. Number 1 adjusted defense in KenPom right now for UCLA, taking on the number 1 adjusted offense in KenPom per Gonzaga. UCLA, though, without Jalen Clark. They also did not have Adam Bonner, who was not there in the game against Arizona, but incredible for UCLA. They took Arizona right down to the wire, lost by 2. This Gonzaga team, they are lights out shooting the basketball, and they sent a message to America. That game in the WCC championship against St. Mary's, they sent a message to America. So UCLA, they did lose their top defender, Jalen Clark, to injury. I can see UCLA getting revenge in this game. Wouldn't shock me if they do. This one as well. Same thing as Kansas UConn. This one was a toss-up to me also. But this Gonzaga team, they're not a 1. They're not a 2 seed. They don't get as much pressure on them as before. For Gonzaga, they're kind of hidden in this bracket as a number 3 seed. I feel like Gonzaga is going to take advantage of those injuries by UCLA. I'm going the Zags to the Elite Eight in that matchup over UCLA. Left side of the Sweet 16, Memphis, the 8 seed, will take on the 5 seed Duke in a physical battle here. Both of these teams surging at the right moment. One of the big keys this season for Duke's turnaround, that has been cutting back on the turnovers. Memphis, they do struggle with the turnovers, averaging around 13.5 turnovers per game for the Tigers. Look for Duke to slow down Memphis in this matchup. Duke, they're the better defensive team, and they have also started to catch fire at the right time with their offense. Man, this one's going to be physical. I just like Duke in this matchup to prevail. Duke to the Elite Eight, getting hot at the right time. Marquette the 2 seed, going to take on Kentucky, the 6 in this matchup. Now, if Kentucky wins this game, it's because of second chance points. Kentucky, 3rd in the nation last month in offensive rebounding percentage. Marquette, they're ranked all the way back at 339 in defensive rebounding percentage in the last month. Marquette, though, led by Tyler Kolek, 4th in the nation in assist-to-turnover ratio. Marquette can move the ball around. They can score. I feel like Kentucky's inability to make a 3, that's going to hold them back in this matchup here. I'm going to go with Marquette in this game. They're getting better defensively as well lately. They limited Xavier in that Big East Tournament Championship game to much, much less scoring numbers. I'm taking Marquette all the way to the Elite 8 to face Duke. Now back up to the top. Elite 8 of the bracket. Left side, Alabama, the 1 seed, will take on the 6 seed Creighton. This is going to be tough, I feel like, for Creighton. You just got 1 day to prepare for this matchup. 1 day of rest with a starting 5 as well. Starting 5 heavy lineup of Creighton going up against a deep athletic Alabama team that just loves to run the floor on you. Creighton's going to get used to the tempo because if they do win that game, they'd have to get past Arizona to take on Alabama. So similar tempo styles, but just the emergence of Javon Quinterly, 6th man. Massive comeback story for him after getting injured last year against Notre Dame in the first round for Javon Quinterly. But this dude completely took over games 2 years ago in the tournament. Took over that first round game against Iona for Alabama. He is back. He has more depth on the roster. I like the Roll Tide in that matchup. Welcome to the Final Four, Alabama. Houston, Texas. In an all-out Lone Star State matchup, the 1 versus the 2 seed, a physical, athletic type of game here. Now, here's the question. Marcus Sasser's injury. That concerns me about Houston. I don't know if he's going to be back or not. That's the big question there. And how is he going to feel? That's the thing, because they were really missing him against Memphis on Sunday. Here's the thing as well. The Big 12 has put at least 1 team in the Final Four during the past 4 NCAA tournaments. And I feel like this will continue right here for the Big 12. They'll keep on putting at least 1 more team in the Final Four. Both of these teams have struggled from 3-point range lately. During the last month, though, Texas's defense, they ranked number 1 and number 8 on Batork.com in turnovers forced. And also total defense, they're number 1. They're 8 in turnovers forced. Houston's defense is close by. They're number 4, but man, this is just a toss-up right here. I'm going to go Texas because I got faith in the Big 12 representing the Final Four once again with the Big 12 tournament champions this time breaking through. If Texas does it, look at the teams that they have to face along the way. That Colgate team as well is a sneaky 15, a physical Texas A&M a 7, and then a high-flying offensive Xavier to 3 before they get a physical Houston team to 1 in Houston. I'm going Texas there, the 2 seed, representing the Big 12 in the Final Four. So here we go. Bottom part of the brackets, Elite 8. The 2 seed Marquette taking on the 5 seed Duke. 9-game winning streaks for both of these teams. These Duke guys, though, they have grown up. They are full-grown men for the Duke Blue Devils. 34 games into the season for Duke. Marquette, they're just such a popular pick, I feel. It's such a trendy pick by everybody. I love this Marquette team. It's been amazing to watch this season. Got an amazing point guard with Tyler Kolek, but in the last month, though, Duke, they have skyrocketed up the charts to the number 5 rating on Batork.com in adjusted efficiency, all the way up to number 5 in the last month since February 16th. They're number 11 in offensive efficiency, 15th in defensive efficiency, and Marquette's, they're number 10 in adjusted efficiency, right behind. But the problem with Marquette is that they do struggle with defensive rebounding. And Duke, their size, I feel like that's going to take over this game. Point guard Jeremy Roach, his leadership, incredible to lead Duke here and this young team to the Final Four. Marquette, incredible season for them. Just a great team to watch this year. But this Duke team is a 5 seed. They are soaring. They are hot right at the right time for this Duke Blue Devil squad. I feel like they're just a bigger type of team with more NBA-ready type of bodies in this matchup. I'm taking Duke in that game over Marquette. And then right side, UConn, Gonzaga, Elite 8. Man, what a game this will be as well. 4 versus 3. The physicality, though, of UConn. I feel like that's going to show up here and knock off the number 3 seed. Gonzaga surging as well right now, but UConn, they've been playing great also. Lost a tight game against Marquette in the Big East tournament. This UConn team, they beat Alabama by 15 points on Black Friday. That says something here when you beat Alabama, the number 1 overall seed. And they also got big, strong bodies in the front court. Adama Sanogo, 6'9", 7'2", Donovan Clingan, Jordan Hawkins, absolute stud this season. UConn, I feel like them with their offensive rebounding rates, just able to control the glass and their physicality to show Gonzaga bodies in this game and make it physical. I think that's going to favor UConn, and I'm going to take UConn in that matchup over Gonzaga. So here we go, Final Four. Final Four, we got the left side, Alabama versus Duke, the 1 versus the 5. Brandon Miller, Kyle Filipowski. What a game. And also North Carolina's worst nightmare ever. Last year, Hubert Davis making it to the national championship game. Here's John Shire to the Final Four 1 year later after Coach K. The sky is the limit for this Duke team. But this Alabama team, they are just incredibly fast. Fast-paced, physical type of game. Alabama, they ranked number 2 in interior defense in the last month. Their three-point shooting could be a difference maker if Alabama's making those threes. If they're making those threes, that could be a difference maker in this matchup. I just got the feeling here Alabama's going to get hot from 3. Duke hasn't been able to get like super hot from 3-point range this year. They're more of a points in the paint interior type of team than knocking down shots from the perimeter. I'm taking the Roll Tide all the way to the national championship game for Alabama, the 1 seed. And here is the second Final Four matchup on the right side. Number 2 seeded Texas taking on number 4 seeded UConn. 2 physical, athletic type of teams. Both extremely deep teams. Texas, they've struggled to make their threes. Their defense, though, it's been incredible. Just scoring droughts, 3-point shooting, inconsistencies. I feel like that's holding back Texas here. And it's just tough to win games. They've been able to win games in the Big 12 tournament despite a bad 3-point shooting percentage. They've done an amazing season this year under head coach Ronnie Terry. Everybody is bought in with all the experience on that Texas team, and there's a reason why they crushed Arkansas back in the preseason by 30 in the secret scrimmage. This Texas team, they got a legit lineup for them. UConn, though, I feel like they're the better offensive type of team. UConn's got incredible balance on that team. I feel like UConn will prevail in that matchup in a physical battle between a 2 versus 4 seed. So this will be a rematch between Alabama and UConn on Black Friday. Rematch between those two teams, Alabama and UConn. And by the way, my Final Four, since February 16th, so this is 1 month before the first round tips off. So upcoming February 16th to when the first round tips off on Thursday, which will be March 16th. These 4 teams I got in my Final Four ranked number 2, 3, 4, and 5 in adjusted efficiency via Batark.com within the last month. Texas at number 2. They were in the number 1 defense. The offense has struggled. They're at 63, but they're ranked number 2. UConn, number 3. They get the number 6 offense, 16 defense. Alabama at 4 with a number 7 defense, 33 offense rated per adjusted efficiency. And then Duke at 5. They've soared all the way up for Duke, and the sky's the limit for that team too. Number 11 offense, number 15 defense per balance on adjusted efficiency. But in this matchup here, national championship game, the 1 Alabama taking on the 4 UConn. UConn won the Phil Knight Invitational by 15 points back on Black Friday, but I feel like this is where Alabama gets their revenge. They're out here to take names, take down teams, get their revenge, and if this team shoots the ball deep from 3, shooting you right out of the gym for this Alabama team with their speed, their size, their physicality, it says a ton when UConn beat Alabama like they did on neutral floor this season. But from that game, Alabama tied a season high 21 total turnovers. They only attempted 50 shots. That was well below their season average per game. Brandon Miller just went 5 for 15 from the floor. Javon Quinterly was held 1 for 6. Quinterly has been balling out as of late. And watching Alabama play this weekend throughout the SEC tournament, man, just so impressed. Alabama, that is on the court for what they are doing. Unfortunately, of course, other stuff just unfortunate with their team outside the court in the last month or so. But on the floor for Alabama, what they've been able to do for that basketball team, crushing teams on the courts, and just so athletic, so fast, so deep. This Alabama team, just impressed by how they went straight through the SEC tournament. Alabama, I'm picking the number 1 seed for the national championship, and I am going for my predictions here. I will go 78-75. Alabama, 3-point victory over UConn in the national championship. So thanks so much all for joining in, being a part here on the stream today. And before I do sign off, make sure to join the Behind Your Basketball Bracket Challenge group if you guys would like to do so. That link is posted in the description below this video. Also, make sure to hit the thumbs up, spike the like, hit the subscribe to this video as well. If you'd like to stop by for play-by-play on my live streams throughout the NCAA Tournament, also do so. Check them out as my live stream content is absolutely fire. Thanks so much all for joining in. Glad for you guys to watch, as that's my bracket predictions for the 2023 NCAA Tournament.